making very many of them when guys are giving them space and eating the space up and getting the rim still. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, you just hope you have help and you hope you miss it. It really is. And Coach Stevens has said it. There's really no one way to stop it right now, and that's what makes it scary.
Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, comparing rates to help you save. Now that's Progressive. Call it today. Find out how much Progressive could save you. Mike Miller is in our studio again. You can win a trip with you and 7 friends to the NBA Finals. Winning word coming up a little more than a half hour from now. Back to Golden State for a minute. On the Queen. Let's go over that for a minute here. Maybe the biggest storyline coming out of that series so far is over Zaza Pachulia stepping up. Overall impact that's had on the direction of the series. You were a shooter. So take us back to your career. Was that sort of thing going on? Did guys get underneath you, try and get in your head? And what impact did that have on you as a shooter?
I think it happens. Obviously, it does have a lot of impact. And it's going to be interesting to see when Kawhi comes back. Because once it happens it's one of those things where you don't really recognize it until it happens. And then once it does, you're coming back off an ankle. Now you're seeing that film. Obviously, everyone's been talking about what Bruce Bowen did, and he was obviously one of the biggest ones at it. And it's one of those things where it's definitely in your head once it happens. And for me on the defense end, I was never good enough defensively. I was always in a mismatch situation. So I'm just trying to contest. I never had the time to think about sliding my foot underneath somebody. So it's definitely something to think about once it happens.
Did you think Zaza and Aldridge looked? I mean, it wasn't the prettiest thing in the world that he was trying. It seemed like he was trying to do. Did you think they were both intentional?
Zaza is not as much. If you look at the situation, Kawhi stepping back. When you step back away from the defensive, all your job is to do is try to contest. And I don't think in Kawhi's in Zaza's situation and in his defense, when you're in a mismatch situation like that, all you care about is contesting. You don't have time to think. The game's a lot faster than people think. Just because Kawhi Leonard makes it look slow, right? The game's fast. So you're in that mindset. You just try to defend. And it's a playoff game. It's a Western Conference Finals game. Now LaMarcus is on the other hand. It looked like he gave the extra which made his foot slide underneath it. So if I was going to pick one, I would say LaMarcus looks more intense.
There are people saying they got to get it out. I know you can call it a foul. It's tough to call it right at the time. Should they do something after where you review it and take it? But a day later, is there a way that this should be legislated out of the game?
I think the day later is the only way you can do it because we already make too many opinionated calls as it is. That can cost games. People make that decision later because in the game, for officials making opinionated calls, you got to intentionally try to, put his foot underneath someone else's foot and cost somebody a series or a game would be tough. But if you guys in a room and they come out and everyone thinks that that's the situation, I think that's what it is if you're going to do it.
If Kawhi is able to come back and be healthy and play at the sort of level he was playing for the first half and change, can the Spurs get back in that series?
Get back in it'll be tough. Can they win it? Yeah, I mean they can get back in. Like everyone always says, there's a chance. There's always a chance. With what Pop does and with Kawhi is, I'm still gonna say that it's gonna if they get. I think it'll be one game lead, and it's gonna be game 3. So it's all gonna depend on Kawhi's health, and I think all the role players for San Antonio will play better at home, so that's gonna help. I think LaMarcus will play better at home, which is gonna help. And they're gonna be ready for it. Pop will have a game plan.
What, in your mind, is in guys' minds, like guys that can opt out and become free agents, whether you're opting out or you're a free agent? Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, if Paul George gets moved somewhere, if Jimmy Butler gets moved somewhere. The thought process now of, do you think there can be a team created somewhere that could challenge one of these two, whether it's in the East or the West, by putting guys that are available, putting someone, to put Chris Paul, does he go back to New Orleans, and all of a sudden he's there with, Cousins and Davis, or is there another combination somewhere that you think could be a viable threat to anybody?
That's a very good question. The answer is yes. I mean, you have enough talent out there that's missing one piece, and it's a leadership piece. So I like the example you gave. I mean, if New Orleans can get a guy like Chris Paul, I think him and Drew Holiday can play together. Add one more shooting piece with DeMarcus Cousins, who I think pieces that you add to those situations, and yes, it makes them a contender. Now, does it take out LeBron or those situations? That's the question. But anything can happen.
Does the league have a competitive balance problem?
I mean, if you're watching the playoffs, yes. Right now, I mean, like we talked about, it's a collision course. I mean, you know, it's nothing that, you know, against the other teams. Just you have such good teams, and they're constructed so well that they're a mismatch for everybody. Like Golden State's a mismatch right now in the West, and Cleveland is a mismatch in the East.
So let me ask you an honest and perhaps complicated question. Do the players on the for both of you, Mike, you played in the NFL 9 years. Mike, Miller, you played in the NBA how many years? Forever. 17 years. Sure. So you were on teams, I'm sure, and you were on really good teams and won championships. You were on teams that weren't as good. Do the Celtics players genuinely believe they're going to win this series?
I don't know. Yeah, I gotta see their dynamic, the culture in the locker room. I think their culture is right. They play tough. Like the only way they can, and not to go around your question, but the only way they can win this series is if you saw how they played the last 6 minutes of the third quarter.
Yeah, they were physical. They were.
Like they had to muck this game up. It's no different than what San Antonio did with Golden State. When you let these guys play in space, Golden State, you let Cleveland play in space, they're impossible. They have too much talent, too much shooting. LeBron picks you apart. Steph and KD pick you apart. You got to make this game physical. So to say, yeah, I believe they do. I mean, they're, you know, listen, whether we talk the regular season easy or not, they're still the number one team in the East, and they believe that. So a lot of that's going to be answered though the first 6 minutes of the game too.
Mike, what do you think? Do you think they walk out on that walk down the court last night thinking we're going to win this series and go to the final?
As I said, every time I, as an average player, lined up against who I knew was going to be a future Hall of Famer, whether it's Anthony Munoz, Mike Webster, Dwight Stevenson, Mike Munchak, I thought I would win. I mean, that was my mentality that I'm going to win this play, and then I'll go to the next play. That was and it certainly didn't always work out that way, but you always think you have a chance. You always think something can go your way if you just play your game and do your thing. That's going, you know, inevitably the best team, that's one of the biggest differences in basketball is it's a series as opposed to one game in football. But yes, the mentality of a player is that they can always get.
I agree with that. I agree with that. That's the reason they're there.
All right, we are partnering up with our friends at Dell, give you a special NBA Finals experience. Again, 9:45 Eastern, a half hour from now, we'll give you the word of the day. It'll be your chance to win it, brought to you by Dell for Small Business. In the meantime, we have our Twitter queue. We have solicited Twitter questions for you, Mike Miller, and the fans have responded. And so here we go. The Twitter view with the questions through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Christopher tweets, what is the most difficult thing about playing with LeBron James?
The most difficult thing about playing with LeBron James, you're gonna get wide open shots. For my first 9-10 years in my career, I felt like guys were running me off the line, and you very rarely got open looks. With him, you're gonna get 3-4 open looks. Everyone in the arena expects you to make it, and you got to deliver. That's a tough thing.
So if you don't, forgetting the people who are probably going to boo you then, what about the guy, LeBron? Does he stop looking your way? I always say, you shoot you're a shooter, but does he give you the opportunity?
He does. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, he's very, very intelligent.